Yo, 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 yo. What is up? What is going on, everybody? Let me get my stuff pulled up here real quick. Let me get this pulled up real quick on my phone so I could keep up with all the messages. Better turn down this. How's it going, everybody? We just here to talk about the 2023 race season coming up this weekend. Is the first race for a lot of people. Um, this is the Outlaw Series race number 1 coming up Saturday. We're gonna be there bright and early, meeting up with some people. Um, can't wait. Is everybody excited? Because I know I am excited. I've talked to a couple of different racers. A couple of them is still in the process of building UTVs, bouncers. Can't wait. Cannot wait. I think we're going to have a guest on tonight. Anybody has to do with any sport of rock bouncing, you know him. One of the coolest dudes that I've met, and one of the most polite people in the rock bouncing world. He is one of them, and he gives his heart and soul to the race industry. And I will let you all know here in just a little bit, as soon as I get with him on Messenger, so he can come in here. But if any other racers want to join me, chit chat, even if you're a fan of rock bouncing, hey, you ain't scared of the camera, come on here, jump on. Let's talk about racing. I love it. I love it. So the first race is this weekend. Cash went out to King of the Hammers, so it won't be his first race of the season, although I didn't see him on the driver's list. But that's why I'm saying it's some drivers' first race this year. We got the rookie from last year. He will be at the race tomorrow, or not tomorrow, Saturday. He is no longer a rookie, but also last year he definitely didn't drive no rookie. That's Wade Good. Yeah, Wade is on the list, so can't wait to watch him race, and a couple other buggies. I believe Cooper's name is on the list. Cooper and his new buggy. Can't wait to see that. That's gonna be pretty cool. Pretty cool. Let's see here. Cody Hopper, what's up, buddy? Mark Giles, Prudence Giles, Randy Neese, Susan King. What's up? How's everybody doing on this fabulous, well, might not be fabulous in Mississippi right now. I heard they're getting some pretty bad weather, but hope everybody's doing good. I just want to jump on here and catch up with some people. We're gonna watch a little bit of Eagle Eye Productions video last year from AOP. I believe it's finals. So can't wait to show y'all that video. Can't wait to watch the race. Yes, I cannot wait neither. It's been a little bit. I did get to go out to Cable Hill. Matt Myrick was kind enough to let me join along and get some pictures for Busta Knuckle and them. So that was exciting for me. I went there twice. I watched Shelby do her pirouette, and I watched Jake Berkey do his little roll, whatever you want to call it, come back down on the front end. It was pretty wild. But yeah, got to go out there for a day. That was a blast. Um, can't wait to go this weekend. It's going to be I believe it's a 4 hour trip for me. So I'll be getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, driving out there to Hawk Pride, staying all day long, and then driving back 4 hours. I don't care to drive, but so it's gonna be a long day for me. That's okay though. I'm gonna enjoy it. Let me see if I could get one of my good buddies to join me. I don't know if he's busy or not, but I just sent him the link. So we'll see if he comes on. Whoever's watching, it looks like I got 9 people in here. Who is your all's top 3 for the bouncer class in both series? So you could give me, put down Outlaw 1, 2, and 3, and NRA 1, 2, and 3. Then I want to go back and watch this video at the end of the race season and see who was the closest one. Who was the closest one right? I have my picks. I don't want to give them away yet. I want to see what other people come up with. But it's gonna be interesting knowing that Timmy is building a trail ride / racer, but we know how Timmy's trail ride buggies are. They're pretty much a race buggy except a bigger fuel cell and 2 seats. But so he might come in and mess up some points for people. Dex Browder, he's supposed to be at the first Outlaw Series race. He's on the list. Can't wait to see the Browder brothers come and race. It's always excited to see them. Mama Browder, I hope she's gonna be there. Love seeing Mama. All the UTV guys that I don't normally get to see because I only go to the NRAs on Saturday. But so Outlaw, I really enjoy going to Outlaw because I get to catch up with the UTV guys that race. Because normally, like I said, I only get to watch UTV Bounty because I'm only on Saturdays. And at the end of the year, at finals, I get off work, so I get to see them then. But normally the UTV guys, I only get them at Outlaw races and the UTV Bounty class on Saturday on NRA. We got any guesses yet? Let's see. Mark Giles, there have been several buggies change hands and some that's been revamped. Could be interesting. You, sir, are correct. You are correct at that. Wade Good sort of tricked everybody. He said that, how'd he put it? Misfit has a new owner now, and I seen a whole bunch of comments, and I'm like, nobody gets it. Nobody gets it. But I was thinking, yep, he done bought it from Chris. And then we went to, then I seen him at the New Year's bounty, and sure enough, he bought it. And I was like, yeah, that's what I thought. Let's see here. Mama is coming. Bring me a heater. Hate cold. Yes, I hate cold weather too. Especially last week, I was in Hawaii. So, oh, last week and coming back to Tennessee this week, even though it's warm, it's nice and warm, 50 degrees outside here lately. It's still cold. It is still cold. I see Jed Harper's watching. I can't wait to see you, buddy. It's been a little bit since I've seen you. Can't wait to catch up. Let's see here. I don't see anybody's picks yet. I don't have anybody's picks in the comments. 1, 2, and 3. Who's it going to be? In the bouncer class only. Later, I'm going to get to the UTV class. So I wonder who you all think is going to be the bouncer class 1, 2, and 3 in the Outlaw series and NRA series. I know some people don't follow both series, so don't know. Don't want to classify 1, 2, 3 together. I want to say Outlaw and NRA. Who do you all think it is? Chad says new rig isn't ready, but still making the trip to watch the show. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm telling you, if you haven't been to a race, and just smelt the race fuel and interact with the drivers, and man, it's a great time, and listening to the motors just roar past you, it's a sight to see. I mean, it's great. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Chad says Dex, Wade, and John Hammett Outlaw. Is John running the whole series? I haven't heard too much if he's running the whole series or not. Dex, I haven't got to talk to Dex to see if he's running the whole series. Last he told me was he was just going to hit races close to his house, which I think Hawk Pride is their home off-road park. But I'll give a Dex, or maybe Mama Browder, she's on here. Maybe she can let us know. But as far as from what Dex told me, this was last year. He was just gonna run the stuff close to his house. So I don't know if he's running the whole Outlaw series or not. But that is a good lineup. Dex, Wade, and John Hammett. I like that. Different people on the podium. I mean, Dex, he's known for getting on there. John, he's a dang good driver. Yeah, yeah. Dex and his XJ. Dex and his. I tell you what, Dex is a lot like he's just a wheel man. You put him behind a RC remote, he'll drive its wheels off. You put him behind an XJ Cherokee, drive the wheels off. Put him behind a bouncer, drive the wheels off. I'm telling you also, his brother, Justin, somebody just mentioned, yep, Janet. Mama Browder just mentioned. I was getting there, Mama. Hold on. Justin, I'm telling you, if he had a bouncer, he would be someone to watch out for also. But because Justin, he's also a wheel man that could wheel anything you put him on. He's probably been like that the brothers probably been like that their whole lives. Um, good people to hang around with. I like them. So I'll be there at Hawk Pride pretty early, probably around. I'm gonna leave my house at 4. Takes about 4. I'll be there about 7 o'clock Saturday morning. Is it supposed to rain? Does anybody know about the weather? Mama Browder said it's gonna be cold. How cold we talking? How cold we talking? Dex in the pro amateur class. Is he running the whole series? Or are you just talking about this? You just talking about this coming weekend? Jed said Saturday's 54 and sunny. Whoo! I'm gonna like that. I am gonna like that. I'm gonna like that very much. We got Kenneth Cozine popping in here watching. How you doing, sir? I see you you got some work to do to get Bad Donkey together and out there to Hawk Pride. You are racing for was that Clint Garrison, I believe? If I ain't mistaken, I thought that's what I saw on Facebook. Cozine's supposed to be racing for Clint, so that's going to be a good time. Anytime you see Bad Donkey out there on the hills, it's a great time. Well, actually, let me take that back. Anytime you see Cozine out on the hills, it's a good time because he was in Karma last year and he decided he wanted to get a little close. He wanted to get a little close to me. I was way up on the hill too. So yeah, anytime you see Cozine in anything, it's gonna be a good day. Let's see. Dex says if my points are good, I'm gonna do the whole series. That's what I'm talking about, Dex. That is what I'm talking about. I'm glad to hear that, Dex. That's good news because I for one like seeing you out on the hills and not saying anything about anybody else because I like all the drivers, but Dex, you always I think when you show up, I think you get in their heads and you don't even have to say nothing to nobody. When when that red buggy comes up with the face on it, you know Dex Browder, he comes to he come to race. I think some drivers are like, here we go. Shake some stuff up. Shake some stuff up. All right. Let's see here. Mark Giles says in the Outlaw, he thinks it's going to be Wade, Dex, and Heckley. Yeah, a lot of people. Well, some of the podcasts and stuff that I've seen didn't put Dex in the top 3 because nobody knew he was racing. But Wade, Dex, and Heckley, that is a very strong 3. And then Mark says NRA, Wade, Heckley, and Jay. That's a strong 3 too. But going to be several others that are going to be pushing hard to challenge these guys, though. That's 100% correct. That's 100% correct. Let's just say I believe there's going to be some upsets in the NRA podiums this year. I mean, even with no seat time, you all know how much of a wheelman DC Thompson is. I mean, he's a wheelman. And to see him behind a big buggy, I cannot wait because I don't think he's going to be wild like I guess you could say when he first come out he was he was a little bit wild, but now he turned into a heck of a driver. He could always drive, but it seemed like last year he was going for points, and if he keeps that mentality with the big bouncer, I believe DC Thompson's going to hurt some feelings. Another one I think is going to hurt some feelings is Cooper Bentley. Uh, he's got that. He's got that old buggy, twin turbo buggy. He's he's somebody to watch. Y'all better watch out for him. Another one that people overlook quite a bit, and I don't know why they overlook him, but it's my favorite buggy racing today. That's John Allen Campbell with the Taz buggy. Hey, if John Allen decides to come race that weekend, yeah, he's gonna be shaking up some points too. So Jada Harper said no turbos anymore. What's that mean? Did the rules change? Did he take the turbos off? What are you referring to? Let's see. Chad says Gold Rush Reclaim going to get raced. I'm not real sure. I'm not real sure. I haven't heard. I've never met or talked to the people who bought the Gold Rush Reclaimed. Plan on it. Y'all got to remember, I'm still a little guy in the media. I can't. I'll get to them when I see them at a race. I don't want to, rush into them. They'll be like, "What are you crazy?" But you know what I mean. I don't want to impose on anybody. But I will get to know the owner of the Gold Rush Reclaim. I have no idea. Last I heard, he was running it. He was gonna do some. I can't remember if he's going to race all of them or if he's going to do some NRA. But also his son-in-law or something like that has got Karma. So both of those buggies are going to be out on the same. Mark Giles says Gold Rush supposed to be at Windrock. Cool. Chad says planning to mess up the points in the Pro-Am at the end of the season. Just need to wrap up this unit and get her dialed in. Good, Chad. You get that? Did that say at the end of the season? Sorry, I'm a little slow. Let me read that again. Planning to mess up the points in the Pro-Am at the end of the season. Are you saying there's two different things I'm thinking. I'm thinking, and you said you got to get it wrapped up and dialed in. I'm thinking towards the end of the season, that's when you're going to start racing, and that's when you're going to mess up people's points. Or are you saying you're racing all year, so the end of the season podiums is going to be messed up because of all the points you got? All right. Let's see here. Gold Rush supposed to be at Windrock. Cooper has a new NA engine. Blew other one up at Cable Hill. Oh, yeah. I was there at Cable Hill. That was a heartbreaker for sure. All right, I got my guest. He is in the waiting room. He is scared to be on the camera right now, apparently, although he's on the camera every weekend for the NRA. There he is. Hey, there you are. What's up, buddy?
What's up, buddy?
This is Matt Holt. He is a driver, racer He races the NRA series. He also gets to hang out with a lot of cool people that don't get acknowledged as much as they should, in my opinion. Such as, I mean, he does get acknowledged. Bill Blaisdell,
Yeah.
um, uh, Jack Porter,
Yeah.
I mean, Clyde runs the show, but Clyde has a whole lot of help.
He does. He does. There's a ton of people behind the scenes. Most people do not realize how much it takes behind the scenes to run a production. Clyde owns the National Rock Racing Association, used to be called the Southern Rock Racing Series. And then a few years ago, me and him were at a PRI show, and I came up to him and I started telling him, "Hey, man, I got this great idea about doing production stuff. I just came out of this awesome meeting with a bunch of guys who are doing it during drag racing. They're doing some live feeds, and the Southern Rock Racing Series at that point had done a couple live feeds, but it usually some random person walking around with an iPhone, just walking around with an iPhone." At the races, we had cell phone service, which at that point was about half of them. And there was usually somebody, one of Clyde's family members or friends would kind of just drunkenly walk around with an iPhone and just kind of film whatever they saw. 1 minute they're at the bottom of the hill, next to the top of the hill. You never knew who was running. It was kind of just chaos, but it was something. And I thought, man, we could do that so much better. So I went to like kind of this TED talk at the PRI show. This like back in 2017. And I said, man, it's got some great ideas. It's going to be awesome. And he said, buddy, I got some cool stuff coming. I'm like, no, but it's going to be awesome. It's a great idea. And he's like, listen, I have some stuff in the works. I'm like, yeah, but I got these great ideas. And I was all excited telling him about my ideas we had just talked about in this meeting. And then boom, Rock Racing TV was born shortly after that. And, full production, satellites, graphics, all kinds of crazy stuff. So, Clyde is usually doing a lot more behind the scenes than most people give him credit for. And it's kind of cool because it does take a lot of people. Taylor is like his main guy right now, his new son-in-law. He's been helping us for about a year. He runs the switcher. Usually he's in the production trailer, which luckily now that Clyde has Taylor, he can be outside, usually running the timer and kind of just overall watching the race, making sure everything's good. Again, making sure everything's going smoothly with the race. If we're having a lot of people break at a certain spot, if we're having a lot of, rollovers in a certain spot, that's something that needs to come attention. If everybody's having problems in a certain spot, maybe he'll go back to the drawing board or something for the next year. And you can't really notice that without being, outside the trailer. It's a little hard to do if you're running a production company inside the trailer. So, Taylor coming in has allowed him to step out, but those guys get there, on Tuesday or Wednesday and start setting everything up. So, a lot of times you don't see, because we get there on Friday or even Saturday, some guys pull in Saturday morning, race their buggy and head home Saturday. They don't see the millions of man hours it takes to get everything set up. And, like you talked about Bill does a ton of stuff behind the scenes. It's just, if nothing else, just helping map out the course, putting tape up, putting flags up, getting all that stuff set up, getting all that stuff tear down takes a ton of man hours. And again, I thank Bill a lot for that. Jack Porter helps out a little bit. Taylor helps out. Clyde does a lot of it. Sometimes there's people from the park. I can give shout outs to all of our people that help out behind the scenes. Sometimes there's park people that come up and we don't even know their names. And they're like, hey, you need some help? We're like, sure, come on over. And they'll jump in and help us out. Sometimes it's park employees. Sometimes it's just fans,
Sometimes they have their own recovery crews too.
Yeah. Sometimes they have on race day, they'll have their own recovery crew, recovery people. Sometimes they have their own marketing people that we work with ahead of time. Everybody just saw the Ren Rock just posted a big thing about our race coming up here in a few weeks. And we have some cool stuff, that Clyde's working on behind the scenes that we'll try to roll out this year as well. Each year, Clyde tries to make the live show and the racing both a little more, the live show wants to make it a little more professional. That, which is always obviously his goal with Rock Racing TV. And then with, the racing series itself, he wants to make that better in different ways. So he tries to make, improvements to it each year. And that's something that I kind of like. And again, I get to see a little more behind the scenes than some average people. So I know a lot of things that kind of go on that, I really appreciate Clyde and a lot of stuff he's done, not just for our series, but the sport of rock bouncing overall.
Yeah.
I mean, even with the live feed, it really is credible because I mean, literally, we have fans that log in, and me and Bree get to see that a lot of times because we're on the live feed watching comments and people talking, and we get to see people from all over the world log in and talk to us and check out the series, and and that's really neat too. I was talking to Ian this last weekend at the shootout, the King Hammers, and I was saying how like I used to think Illinois was like this mecca of off roading, and then oh man, well our United States is like this mecca of off roading, and then you find out like there's a dude in Israel that I chat with occasionally that has a buggy that looks pretty similar to Bobby Tanner's, and he goes out and wheels the crap out of it.
Really?
We have a couple guys in Italy that are pretty hardcore rock bouncing. We got a bunch of guys in Australia that I talk to, and they have a big event there that happens, and they do quite a bit of wheeling. So it's kind of neat to see a handful of guys that tune in from all over the world that do similar stuff to us. And again, they run a lot of the same parts. Obviously Iceland is coming to Dyersburg before with the Iceland crew guys. Called the Bomb. We've got to hang out with them, party with them. I know a lot of guys that used to own the team, Alcy and a bunch of them, and his whole entire family tree I've got to do a lot with. And they're really cool, but their buggy is, LS, platform, which same as mine, turbo 400, same as mine. They run a different transfer case, but then they run a Dana 60 up front, a 14-bolt rear, same as mine. So, I mean, it's kind of neat to see how, even though we live literally in two different continents, that we're both running a lot of the same parts. So that part is really, really neat to see how everything transfers. And then, like I said, the live feed, we got some cool stuff coming up with the live feed next year. And again, we try to constantly make that better.
You say better. Next year? You mean this year?
Yeah. I'm sorry. 2023. This 2023 season coming up. We have some really cool stuff in the live feed that, again, like I said, we try to make it a little more professional, a little more better. Like I said, we added the lower thirds last year, which we're going to try to work on to make a little bit better. Some cool stuff with timings. We have some neat stuff we're trying to do. And again, it obviously just takes a lot of man hours. Something else I try to always stress is that, something I started doing this year, and a lot of people have, some of them have started doing, any footage you want. So like if I have a GoPro mounted in my buggy that faces me, and then I have one next to my head that faces out. So that way I have two different angles. One, you can see what I see, and then one, you can see what I'm doing while I'm doing that, which is kind of neat. And then we have 3 or 4 cameras on the course, plus a drone flying around our series. Any of that footage, any driver wants to make their own YouTube video, they can make, and I encourage all of them to get that footage because it looks really, really cool, and I try to, and not a lot of drivers either know that or use that footage. And I always try to encourage them to get that footage and play with it and use it and make your, put it on YouTube, put it on your social media. It's great. It's great for you as a driver to kind of show your friends and family, hey, this is what I do on the weekends. I have a bunch of buddies that hunt and fish and go out and do all kinds of cool stuff, golf on the weekends. I drive a rock bouncer. So I get to, put that on my YouTube channel and, share videos on Facebook and kind of show people what I do on the weekend and what kind of my hobbies are. So, I encourage a lot of drivers to do that if they race with the National Rock Racing Association. That I really enjoy. And plus it's also good for branding, for your social media, for your marketing. We have some guys, with Timmy leaving the series this year, we have some guys that are really going to step up and try to go hard. And I've talked to a few of them, and obviously the harder you go, the more money it takes, the better sponsors you need. Yep. So if you're posting pictures and video all the time, you can either get more out of your sponsors you have currently, or you can get better sponsors or bigger sponsors. You don't want to have 100 sponsors on the side of the car, but at the same time you want to have good quality sponsors that are really contributing to your program and investing in it. So there's some other cool factors too. We're going to talk about at our first drivers meeting and try to help drivers to understand some of the nuances of marketing and sponsorships. And our goal is to try to help drivers, kind of meet and exceed that, and that way the driver helps the driver out, helps the series out, helps everybody out. It's a kind of win-win for everybody.
Yeah. Last year I seen sort of, I thought it was pretty cool. For the fans, it was like, because, I'm a fan and I'm part of the media, switching out for the live camera on the buggy. You see some of the fans are like, come on. So I'm wondering if we could get something that speeds it up a little bit more. Because it was like y'all was taking it off of one and then putting it on another, and it was just downtime where if I don't know how you all do that though.
Yes. Again, that takes quite a bit of time and money. We've been trying to do that. Clyde has been trying to do that for several years. I have tried to work on it for probably with Clyde for at least 6 months. I've been trying to push it with Clyde, and having the in-car stuff is super, super cool. It's just basically we found one drone pilot that was like, yeah, we can make some brackets. Basically, we're taking a drone, essentially condensing it down, the important parts of it, condensing it down in a small little box. And our goal is to make it into some type of GoPro mount, make whether it be 3D printed or machined, get into a GoPro mount, and that way everybody could have the same GoPro mount. And if we had 2 of them, essentially, we could just leapfrog, one camera to the next buggy. That way we're always watching. Again, that takes, it's a pretty big financial commitment to have that much. You're anywhere from $500 to $1,500. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it wasn't real cheap. I think with the initial time we started looking at it, it was closer to $1,500. I think they had got it down to closer to $500 at the end. Again, per unit, it depends how many units you buy. So you're, just say $1,000 a unit, and if you had 20 of them there with 20 drivers, you're still, it's 20 grand you got to spend out the gate to be able to, if you want everybody have their own.
I also liked Zach's interviews on the live feed, interviews with the driver.
I was very, very worried about Zach's interviews when he was doing interviews when I was running my buggy. And Zach did a great job last year. When I would hop out and go run my buggy, Zach would hop in. And I was very worried what he was going to say on the live feed, just because I know how ornery Zach is. And he was incredibly professional. I was very, very impressed at how professional Zach was. I thought he was going to be a lot more ornery, and he was actually very professional. I was very proud of him.
Yeah, he did fantastic. As you know, I don't get to go Friday to your all's event. I only go Saturday. So on my way to the events, I actually listen to your all's live feed that Saturday morning. It keeps me up. It keeps me awake, and just listen to you all talk back and forth. I get information from you all. So you and Bree. So I appreciate that a lot. I mean, it helps everybody out. Even the replay, and what I'm a huge fan of the replay gang, because
we've seen that a lot more with King of Hammers. King of Hammers, if you're familiar, like I said, if you watch any of the coverage for that for the last couple of weeks, they're really good about the replay. But they have a separate guy. Really, it's 2 guys. They have people sitting there running a replay station that literally their entire job is to record and run replays back and forth. Again, with Taylor running production, he's trying to do 40 things at once. I mean, essentially at King of Hammers, they have like 9 or 10 people doing the same thing that Taylor's doing one job at. Granted, we only have one guy running at a time, but it's still, we have 4 or 5 cameras. We have a drone. We still have a lot going on. We have a studio camera. We have people in the studio talking to them. We have people on the radio telling them stuff, like Clyde's on the radio. And that's another thing, like you guys don't necessarily hear the fans or people watching the live feed don't necessarily hear all the stuff on the radio that Zach's saying to Clyde or me. We have headsets, which is always very interesting. And so sometimes when we're talking, we'll start talking, and all of a sudden we'll just it looks like we're powering down. We'll start to stutter and we can't get our words out. And the reason why is because we're trying to listen to a conversation going on as we're talking. And usually it pertains to what we're talking about. Sometimes they're honoring, they'll start heckling us and kind of joking with us too. But, that's kind of cool. And it's kind of neat to see that too. And we were kind of teasing Miles a little bit, just being the genius. Bree had a notebook last year, and I was starting to kind of debate last year that I'm going to have to get a notebook. Again, it's like a 3-ring binder you have open. It just has a bio on all the drivers. I'm getting so many different drivers now that I've just met over the years, and so many different buggies that have been bought and sold and traded. And so I'm starting to forget stuff now because I've been in it so long. So I'm going to have to really get a binder, kind of like, Bree has and Miles has, just to help keep some of the drivers straight. And that's nice for sponsors. It's nice to know which driver has which sponsor. I really appreciate when people talk about my sponsors on a broadcast, because it helps me show love to my sponsors, which, again, helps the sport. I don't, most people can't all do this initially. Most series don't survive without great sponsors. So I really appreciate that when they do that. So that's something I really want to do a good job at showing love this year to sponsors of drivers, because that's super important. And also the thing that I like to do is I usually, since I'm at the race a couple days early, I can hang out and talk to drivers and find out, if their kid is sick or if they're, if their mom's in the hospital, that kind of stuff means to me. So if I can give a shout out, especially, at the shootout out West Coast, some of those guys are, kind of local guys that don't necessarily have a ton of time. So if one of those guys has a guy that comes down the street and helps them and they hang out and drink beer in the shop and goof off together, and that guy puts a lot of time in, but can't come to the race, can't, maybe financially make that commitment. It's really nice to give that guy a little love,
Yes,
And
I
so
agree.
that means a lot to me if I
Yep.
can do that for that guy, So that part's kind of neat, and I appreciate that. So,
How long was you out there?
like 12 days, I think. 12
12
days.
days.
So
Woo.
10 or 12 days. I left on Thursday morning, and I got back Monday afternoon. So like 10, 12 days, something like that. So, it was a good time. Like I said, I try to go out, I usually try to go out quite a time. This year I did, commentary for, the shootout. Like
I
I
seen
usually
you was in
do.
the pits.
And then I also did this year. They asked me ahead of time. They said, "Hey, can you come do some rope pitting?" And I said, "Well, I can probably do it one day." So they originally scheduled me for the 4900, which is UTV side by side class. And then they came to me about a week ago and said, "Hey, we need some more pit reporting." I said, "Okay, I'll go ahead and do one more class. I can do one more. I'll do the EMC." So I got to do a remote pit one for the EMC and 4900, which was a lot of fun. I'm not typically a pit reporter. Typically I'm more of like, I enjoy being in the booth. I kind of like my snacky snacks and, being in a nice air conditioned booth. I'm a little more bougie, a little
Hey,
wine.
you did a fantastic job though out there.
It was awesome. It was a lot of fun. I really absolutely loved it. It was a lot of fun getting to hang out with some drivers. I got to hang out with the pit crew. I did a bunch of pit crew interviews. I was in remote pit one, which is great because they only went through that pit once. So that means I got cut early in the day. So I got to go back to camp and still do some social media stuff and still watch a bunch of stuff. So that I really, really appreciated. And if it works out that way again, I probably will do that next year. That part, it wasn't too bad. The thing that I did kind of like was talking to pits. I would usually go and ask a lot of drivers like, "Hey, is it cool if I interview you?" And a lot of guys, I would say probably 60% were like, "No, we don't want to interview. We don't want to talk. No, we're good." And I would usually ask them that off camera. That way I wasn't embarrassing them and be like, "Hey, you want to have an interview?" And again, some of these guys were having frustrating, remote pit one was still pretty early. It was like 35, 45, 55 miles, depending on what race it was. I think it was like 58 miles or something like that into the race. But the first 58 miles were all desert. So essentially that was kind of like the easier part of King Hammers. So if you're pulling into remote pit one, it's because you have a really small fuel tank and you have to refuel, or because you've had a flat tire, or because something broke on the car. So if you're pulling in a remote pit one, you're probably not having a really good day, in theory. So if you're pulling a remote pit one, you're probably not having a great day. So the last thing you want to do is have somebody come and shove a camera in your face and be like, "Hey, you're having a horrible day. You want to talk about it?" And so that's not really warm and comforting. If you're already having a bad, crappy day, the last thing you would do is have somebody come shove a camera in your face. So I usually very politely ask them off camera, like, "Hey, is it cool? Do you want to do an interview? Do you want to talk?" And, majority of them, I'd say about 60% were like, "Nah, I'm good." And again, I kind of would hope to be a little higher number just because it's great for them. It's a great opportunity for them to talk about sponsors. Even if you are having a kind of a crappy day, it's kind of nice to get some airtime. But again, not everybody feels that way. And some guys didn't care. Some guys were we had some guys that pulled in a Suzuki Samurai that were having a horrible day. They pulled in and they had to replace both leaf springs and a drive shaft under the front end of their Suzuki Samurai. And there was like, 6-8 dudes there, and they were all younger guys. I'm going to say early 20s, having a ball, just enjoying life. They were having a blast. So I got to interview them. They were all talking, laughing, and just having a great time. And we're teasing each other and making jokes. And I really, really appreciated those guys. That was a lot of fun.
That sounds like the stock class. Like those guys just have so much fun. Van class, they just have so much fun.
It was a stock class, the 4600, and they were in a pretty stock-ish Suzuki Samurai. Which is not, it's not your average vehicle you're going to be seeing, on the most hardcore off-road scenes.
Right.
So, if you do see a Suzuki Samurai, it's not like some hardcore off-road rig. It's mainly just like, it's usually kind of sketchy. They have, not a lot of mods done to the car. The max tire in the stock class is a 35-inch DOT tire. So that part kind of sucks. So, but they were having a great time. I also got to interview some guys that unfortunately, they limped their car to pit one and that was it. They were done for the day, which is really sucked, but the cool part is I did get to interview him. One was a buddy of mine, Josh Atterbury. He used to have Jeep. He just turned around and bought a Bronco, and then they had a whole fiasco trying to get it all set up. It was kind of crazy. So unfortunately, he had some technical issues, broke something, and I think the front end and or transmission, and had some issues. So they were able to limp it back to limp it to pit one, but then he was done for the day. And there's a couple other guys I got to talk to. Some guys were really cool about pulling the pits. We got to talk to them about their pit strategy, and I had a couple of really cool interviews where they were in the car. And again, like I said, I would usually ask them, make sure it was okay. If they said it was okay, then I'd run up and do an interview. Similar to Miles. Again, Miles does an amazing job at that. He's been doing that for like 10, 12 years or something. Yeah. So I did talk to him a little bit before. I'm like, ask him some tips. Like, what do you think? And my biggest thing with Miles is I wasn't worried that I was going to do a bad job, because doing a pit interview is just like doing an interview in the booth, except you're sitting next to a car or they're in the car or whatever. Right. So my main concern was that I was just worried about upsetting someone if they were having a bad day. And he kind of said the same thing. He's like, just go and ask them, see what they say, and if they're having a bad day, then they'll usually tell you. And he said, just go from there. Because the last thing I want to do is kind of offend somebody, or piss somebody off, or most of these guys are super cool. I'm friends with a really good chunk of them, so I wanted to, try to have the best time with them. And so that was something I really enjoyed. Like I said, I did the EMC, which is the side by sides, and there was a lot of stock or slightly modified side by sides that pulled in to get fuel. And the EMC, there wasn't probably as much. We had some 4,500 guys pulled in and just kind of did some checks. And we had to have a lot of 4,600, a lot of stock class guys, because most of them don't have a huge fuel cell. So, after, 55 miles in the desert, some of those guys aren't going real fast. They do burn a lot of fuel. Mm-hmm. So they'll pull any fuel up, top off, do a bolt check. I did see some tire changes, but in theory, your desert section is pretty easy. I had a 2018 Jeep Wrangler that I took on most of the stock section, and it wasn't nothing crazy. It's something you could do in a stock RZR easy, but then again, you add the race pace in there and things get a little crazy, but it was a lot of fun.
Are you, Matt Holt, are you ready for the race season?
I'm going to say sure, but that's not even close to true. Somebody asked me, they're like, oh man, you got your buggy all geared up for the season? I unloaded my buggy from the trailer. Luckily, I didn't break anything at finals. I was really gentle on the first day. The next 2 days a little harder on it, but I did break one thing at finals. I ripped some tabs off for a limiting strap. Other than that, I backed it off the trailer, and it has not moved since I backed it off the trailer.
No way.
So I did start it up about a month ago, just to make the batteries charged up because it was really cold outside. However, I do have some cool stuff in the works, which unfortunately probably won't happen before the season starts, but I do have some cool stuff in the works, which I'll roll out probably in the next couple months. But we also have some cool production stuff that we're going to roll out too. And unfortunately, the production stuff will kind of take precedence to the buggy. And again, I love my buggy. I'll always keep racing it as long as I can. But with doing production stuff and helping out, not just with Rock Racing TV, but other production stuff, other places, I'm getting spread pretty thin. So
are you in the season? Are you doing the season? Or?
I will absolutely do all 10 races, and that probably won't ever change until I don't know. So that won't ever change as far as I'm concerned. And then I will be doing production with Bree in the booth, and then we have, like I said, we have some cool stuff that's
cool. Can't wait.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
What about this this Ben class that you got? That
we're trying to build. Last year was the inaugural year of the VIN class. We had a really good time with it, and again, we had several guys that really just jumped in and kind of had some fun. I hope we see a lot more of guys like Dex Browder. I'm watch TikTok quite a bit, and I see Dex on there. He's doing some tutorials on his Jeep, which is really neat to see. So I would love to see we get 6 or 8 or a dozen Cherokees out there having a good time.
What about yours?
I bought one a year ago to make a VIN class of, but I just had trouble getting when I'm trying to get a side by side and 2 other full size vehicles to the races. Plus production stuff, it gets a little hairy racing multiple days with multiple.
Yeah. I don't blame you. I got a question for you. Did you ever find out anything about your truck?
You know what? I had 2 people at Hammers this year ask me about it. I got a call from a detective a while back telling me that they're investigating it and following some stuff. It was probably about a month or 2 ago. Probably about 2 months ago, he called me and followed up, asked me a bunch of questions, and As far as I know, they're still looking for it, but I haven't found it yet. No. The
Uh,
detective told me that that's probably already been ditched somewhere, and they just got to find it. It's been stashed. Um, they apparently like F-250s were 99 to 2002. F-250s were like up like 10,000% getting stolen because they figured out how to steal them.
oh,
I don't know if they all like have like a criminal blog or something, but once they figure out how to steal them, like they like nationwide spread. My cousin, funny, I got mine stolen 4 days later. My cousin has a car lot, and he got two stolen off his lot the same night. They came and stole one, went and robbed because they use them for ATMs. They go take the truck, go rob an ATM, rip the ATM on the ground or out of the wall, whatever, bust into it, see all the cash, ditch the truck with the ATM in the back of it. They came back to his lot like 59 minutes later, stole a second truck, went out and robbed a second ATM.
what?
And within 8 hours, they had found the first truck. It was ditched in a cornfield, and it was still running.
Wow.
So he's like, I mean, he's like, we'll find it. It's just, the detective telling me, hey, we'll find your truck. It's just a matter of finding it once it's been ditched.
Remind me what state not to go to?
Yeah, it was St. Louis. So it was actually in a nicer part of St. Louis. That's kind of what the crazy part was.
Oh, man.
And he
all
said,
right.
and he said they have to be 4-wheel drive too. He said because that helps them rip the ATMs out. He said we had one guy that had bought a truck. He had an F-250 just like mine, and the bed was really rusty, so he had bought a new bed, put a new bed on there, and the bed said 4-wheel drive, but the truck wasn't 4-wheel drive. So they stole the truck, drove it like a block, and realized it wasn't 4-wheel drive, and then they just ditched it on the side of the road. They found like a block of dude's house because it wasn't really 4-wheel drive, so they don't want them. So
Wow.
Good times.
All right. You work for NRA, but you're
Yep.
also a big fan of the sport. So do you keep up with the Outlaw series, the racers in that? What I'm getting to is, can you name me the top 3 in the championship for Outlaw and name me the top 3 for NRA? Because we know Dex and a couple others don't run NRA or not going to run. So who could you give me top 3 that you think in the Outlaw series and top 3 for NRA in the bouncer class?
Is this like my top 3 prediction for this year?
Yes. Yes.
That's a really good question. I mean, a really good question. And the reason why I say that is obviously we saw Wade and Timmy battle out a bunch this year. I don't think anyone would dispute the fact that Wade is a very good driver. As most people know, Chris Hickman owned the car last year and Wade drove it. Wade has since then bought it from Chris Hickman Motorsports, and now Wade owns the car. So I think we will see Wade be a little bit more conservative this year. Last year, he was pushing hard and just blowing through everything.
Let me stop you real quick.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing.
Yep.
I was like, Wade probably don't have the wallet that Chris Hickman does, so he's going to take it easy. But let me tell you, I seen him at the New Year's bounty race, and oh my gosh, all of last year he did not give it the gas like he did at this bounty race. I was like, oh man. I was just waiting for him, just to back off. He kept pounding on it. I was like, dude, that was freaking awesome. So
I did watch the race. I wasn't there, but I did watch it, and he was absolutely hammered down.
Yeah, he was.
Posing, or somebody finally came running up and like, hey, your motor's getting hot. Let's just take 5. Like,
yep.
It's on a hot rod day, like it was, kind of funny. But no, I think, I think that will come into play. I don't necessarily think it's going to like stop him from going hard. I think he's still going to drive hard, but I think, when you're putting all of your own funds into it, it does play a little different, Yeah. I think we will see a little bit more conservative Wade. And here's why I kind of say that. Because he was beating some of the guys at some of the races, it was, Timmy would be first, Wade would be second. They'd be like fractions of a second. And then there might be like a 3-second or 8-second gap between second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever, or third, fourth, fifth, whatever. So I think that I think he will drive a little more conservative. And again, you can drive fast, but also drive smart. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be full tilt crazy, bananas to the wall all the time. I think you could drive very smart and still be very quick. Now, here's the problem with, Timmy being, walking away from the throne. Now that Wade's going to be pushing to the top, the second and third place drivers, and I say second, third place, second place through fifth place.
Yes.
Those top 3, top 5 this year, I'm telling you what, it was brutal, bro. I mean, brutal. Justin Wills,
Brandon.
Daniel Heckley, Brandon Davis. Who else was up there?
Storts was behind them.
Storts, and Daniel Heckley and Brandon Davis and Justin. Those four, those guys specifically that's the first 4 or 5 that I think that were consistently in that top 5 category. If they think they can knock Wade off the podium, I promise you, those dudes are coming full tilt, no cares given. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I say Wade has a little bit of breathing room, but really he doesn't, because those dudes are coming for him hard. You know what I'm saying? I mean, those dudes are like, hey, we can knock Wade off. And again, and here's what's crazy. This is kind of the crazy part. You don't necessarily have to beat that guy and blow his doors off racing. If you can push him just hard enough to where he breaks something or makes a mistake, now you have a little bit of a gap for that race. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you have a gap for the season. And again, it all depends on what your goal is. Is your goal to win one race this season and again, my goal is always to do the best I can in each race. But if your goal is all right, I'm going to win at least one race this season, and I'm going to be in the top 5 at the end of the year. If that's your goal, I think you can do that pretty easy. But if your goal is to win a championship, now that changes how you drive, that changes your driving style, that changes your financial commitment. I mean, you have to be so intelligent. I think we didn't see any DNFs last year from Timmy, and we saw how Wade and Timmy were competing. I mean, those guys were neck and neck the entire season. We only saw one DNF from 2 or 3 drivers, so I think that you're going to see a lot of guys being a lot more careful and considerate, because now a championship is in the air. I promise you. Everybody's kind of saying, okay, well, Wade did really well last year, so I think Wade's going to be in that top position this year. There's a good chance he will, and I'm not Wade's driving ability whatsoever. But I think
anything could happen.
There's a lot of guys that are really hungry. Okay, they're hungry and they're coming for it. They ain't gonna mess around. And again,
here's something I've been thinking though. Brandon Davis, he is now officially retired. He don't have to worry about his company. He don't have to worry about nothing. So I think Brandon might be one to watch this year. I think he might be. I think he's the one to watch. He's like I said, worrying about other stuff during the week and stuff like that. Now he could fully concentrate on racing.
Well, and again, I kind of laugh a little bit with, we'll go back to TC. The king is gone. The guy that won, 8 championships in a row is gone. The throne is available, and it is open for anybody who wants it. And all you have to do is make the right moves, and you will have it. So I think a lot of guys are really hungry, and they're going to go for it. Now, again, with Wade, I would say Wade would probably be the smart money if I was betting, because he did so well last year. He was beating Timmy, back and forth. And him and Timmy were, literally every race. It was like 1 and 2, 1 and 2. There was, I think, 3 races in a row that me and Bree actually had to add up points, or Clyde had to add up points. That's how close these dudes were. They were tying at every race so much we had to add up points. When you get to that level of racing, that's pretty freaking. And what's so crazy, somebody reminded me at finals, this is Wade's rookie season. Yeah. That dude's only going to get better as time goes on. That's something that I think a lot of people forgot, including myself. They were like, yeah, this is Wade's. I'm like, yeah, it is Wade's rookie year. Like, this is crazy. I mean, yes, he raced a side-by-side for quite a while and did great driving. But the fact that was his rookie year and the dude was, nudging Timmy that hard, that to me shows like a lot from him. So once he gets really dialed in that car, I think he's going to be a lethal problem for anybody who wants to try to take that throne.
Yeah.
Now, I think that obviously that, running your own budget has a little different story. So we'll see how it shakes out.
We got a bunch of different wild cards. The Gold Rush Reclaim buggy.
I'm very excited. Is that going to be racing? I've heard some rumors.
The interview that I seen him do, I think it was with Nick. I can't remember.
Okay.
He said he was racing it this year along with Karma, because he also bought Karma.
Okay. Well, I would love to see that. I unfortunately, I'm really bummed Shane couldn't, kind of allot the time to come race it. He had other stuff going on, and I totally get that. Me and him had a pretty good conversation about priorities. And, sometimes, you want to go do your hobbies. They're a lot of fun. It's great to get away, go racing, and have a good time. But
Oh yeah.
he said my priorities aren't really aligned with racing right now. And he goes, I can't make time for it. And he said, and I appreciate the conversation we had. I really respect him a lot, and that's a tough decision to make. I mean, the guy spent, like 150, 200 grand in a car and never got the chance to race it. That's got to be, as much as I would love to say, oh man, come on out, that's got to be the hardest person to make that decision, is a guy actually saying, yeah, I'd love to go race this car and go out and just have a good time. But I just, I can't, time whether it be family or work or whatever that comes up, you hate to see that. But, at the same time, it's, it was really, really unfortunate. You didn't get to see him out thrashing that car for a season. And I like Shane. Shane's a good dude. So
the guy that bought the whole package, bought the RV, bought the trailer,
get her done,
bought the whole package. But what I was getting to is you have some wild cards. You have him in the reclaimed buggy. I mean, I don't even know if he could drive, but you got Cooper Bentley.
Yep. Oh, Cooper. People do realize what a lethal problem Cooper's going to be this year. I think it'll take 2 to 3 races. I think by his 3rd race, he will be pretty dialed in that buggy. I say 3. Give him 3 races. He will be dialed in that buggy, and he will be a serious problem. I mean, Cooper is probably the one guy this year I am super excited to see race, because I think he's going to come out and just be just the giggliest, happiest, most awesome driver we have.
Another one I'm looking forward to is DC.
Yeah?
In a bouncer.
Oh, I didn't know he's going to be a bouncer.
Did you not?
I've heard rumors. I wasn't for sure. Is it a done deal?
Yeah, he's got Ron Boyd's buggy.
Okay.
And he's been redoing it. But yeah, he's racing the whole season.
DC will be a guy. I mean, dude, he's going to be a lethal force as well. But DC's the kind of guy. He's more of a wreckers or checkers. He
used to be. And then he started driving, and he started getting on the podium last year.
He did. Last year, I was so proud of him. He built a new chassis and just crushed it. Absolutely crushed it. A bouncer, from everybody I've talked to that raced side-by-sides and then went to bouncers, they have all said bouncers are easier to drive. Like, you can hit ledges a little harder. It'll soak up little jumps a little better. Everybody I've talked to said that bouncers are easier to drive, meaning you can soak up stuff a little bit more. You can make a little tiny mistake here or there, and they'll still kind of feather out versus, being possibly catastrophic. Yeah. And DC can drive anything. DC's a wheelman. That dude could literally get in anything. He could hop in any buggy, big or small, and absolutely drive the wheels off it. So I think DC will, he will have a colossal wreck, or he will be on the podium with that for sure. Yep. And Justin Wills, if you've seen any of his spy photos, he has a new chassis, and it's not been revealed yet, so I won't say too much, but he's been some wheeling and dealing and posting little teaser pictures here and there, and I'm excited. That I'm going to come out and put it down hard this year too. So
one more that don't get spoken of, and he used to drive a UTV, and that's Ethan Martin.
Yeah.
Ethan Martin's got the old one of the Plowboy buggies.
Okay.
So the one Justin Williams used to have.
I think he's going to do very well. Somebody sent me a picture of it, told me he had bought it. And I think that he will do very, very well. He was a great driver, and he is not scared to absolutely just flat put it down either. He's kind of like DC. He doesn't mind getting out there and going hard and going after it. Win or lose, he's gonna hammer it down. And he did amazing when he drove a side by side. I mean, he did very, very well. So
he kept having those small. Something might happen to his buggy. It was like it was bad luck after bad luck after bad luck, and then it ended up getting stolen. And I'm like, man, that guy just had bad luck.
And they stole everything: truck, trailer, big. I mean, they stole it all.
Yeah, that was crazy. So
he's kind of like Dan Carter. Dan Carter again is going to race half a dozen classes this year as well. I think he raced all 3 side-by-side classes last year. He raced 2 of them consistently and 1 like sporadically. And he would sometimes race all 3 classes with 3 different vehicles. So
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of cool to see, when the guy rolls in with a semi and starts unloading a fleet of side by sides, and they have a support vehicle as well. Like it's just really neat to see, and I really appreciate Dan. Dan does a lot for the sport,
Yeah.
and he's helping out, and Brian Dunnigan and them guys over at Rock Life Off Road are over there.
Speaking of that, have you heard the new podcast?
I saw a clip of it, and I want to go watch it.
I listened to it today, going down the road. It was pretty interesting. I'm glad somebody else decided to, because I drive a lot, so
Yep.
I listen a lot, and I'm glad somebody decided to step up and do another podcast.
Yeah.
You have your podcast out here,
Yep.
but a lot of them like aren't drivers, so you can listen to them, but they're just talking about it's
Yep.
not, and so when Jesse stopped doing racing on the rocks, I was
Yep.
like, man, there's a void there. It has to be filled. And
Yep.
then I seen Bryant and them and Dan. I was like, I got to check that out.
Yeah, I seen the clip of it. I seen them post. I watched either a little clip of it or listened to a clip of it, and I want to go watch it because I know they kind of cover a lot of preseason stuff and their predictions for the future. So I want to hear what they have to say. Dan's a great dude. I think the world of Dan. I would do anything for him. He's really a great guy, and I've seen him help out a lot of other racers that race in the same class he races in. So it's always neat to see. You see a racer go, "Hey, I'm going to help you out." Even though you could possibly beat me with this part that I'm giving you, I'm still going to give it to you. That to me is really classy. You don't see that necessarily all racing, but you definitely see that in our sport. So, you see it before too. So that's kind of neat. But yeah, Dan had a lot of weird breakages last year. He was on the podium a couple times, but he also had some really weird breakages, like the wire, the fuel pump would go bad, or it was always weird, kind of crazy, silly stuff. It wasn't everything like, oh, I blew a motor or I blew a transmission or exploded the front diff. It was always like weird little stuff, like the pin in the diff came out, and it usually wasn't even like big, expensive breakages. It was usually pretty simple stuff, but it just sucks that it happens in the middle of a freaking course,
Yeah.
So.
Yep. I agree. So since we talked about drivers, top 3 in Outlaw, top 3 in NRA.
Well, top 3 NRA. That's going to be such a hard freaking question to answer.
No. Top 3.
I want to say Justin Wills, Wade, and Jay Storts.
Putting Jay in front of Heckley, huh?
Yeah, only because I think Jay's a little older, okay? And I think Jay will be a little bit more to kind of pick a certain line, be a little bit smarter, where Heckley's a little bit younger, so he's going to go more for the gusto. And again, all it takes is that one DNF, and now you're 50 points behind.
Yeah.
And that's a hard way to come back. I would put Brandon up there as well. Heckley and Brandon that's your top 5. I could do top 5. That's and again, there's lots of guys, like I said, it's going to get real shaken up this year. Yeah. And what's crazy, this is what's so crazy. It's going to be so much fun this year. I'm so excited for this season. When you have a thing like this year, if you have the top 3, top 5 guys, and then 2 or 3 other young bucks come in and get that first and second spot, it knocks everybody tumble down. Well, now one race alone, you can really mix everything up, or you get that top 2 guys have DNF because they're pushing. They have a DNF. The next 3 guys bolt up hard. Now, again, it totally shakes up. We saw that last year with, several times that, we had a guy that didn't do well that should be in that top, and then they added a gap. I think it was at Dyersburg when Wade had a bad time, but there was 3 or 4 guys that hopped between Wade and Timmy, and that Wade was tumbling down. And then now he was only like 1 point ahead or 1 point behind, whatever it was, going into finals. There was only like a few points, 6 points or 5 points or 1 point or something like that difference between going into finals. When you have that tight of a gap, when you have guys hopping between, now it totally shakes things up. And I think this year is going to be bananas. I'm so excited for this year.
Oh yeah,
I
cannot wait.
I'm super sad Timmy's not in it, just because I think he was constantly pushing the rest of the field. For the last 10 years, we've all been trying to every video, every rollout video that anybody's done for a bouncer. What did they say at the very end? We're going to knock Timmy off the podium.
Yeah.
Timmy's been that gold standard, that Michael Jordan standard. So what happens when Michael Jordan retires? Who fills those shoes? You know, who is going to make the rest of the field try to catch them and push the rest of the field to make faster, stronger, better,
Do you
etc.
remember Timmy's goal?
What?
His final goal. Do you remember what it was?
He wanted to win 10, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
that was after he won 8. Then he said, "Well, I'd like to win 10." But
so is this trail bouncer he's going to build?
So I talked to him for probably an hour on the phone the other day, and we talked a lot about racing and about life and just a bunch of stuff. He told me his goal was building a trail rig to go out. It's going to be a 2-seater or something. Go out, have fun. Because he goes, obviously, I like off-roading still. He's just burnt out. He's like, every time I show up to race, I was expected to win. It got to be where it wasn't really fun anymore. And he's like, he goes, I thought about this, last year in 2021, it was the year of 0.1. I said it was 2021 or maybe 22. He raced 46 times, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
In Outlaw, 0.1, Pro Rock, and SRS, he raced, literally every weekend for 10 and a half months or something.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He's like, I'm just burnt out. I'm done. He goes, I almost quit last season, but I went in and extend a little longer. And he goes, I'm just burnt out. I'm frustrated. And he goes, and I really want to give this circle track thing a try. And he said, I'm so competitive. He's like, Matt, you have no idea. I'm so competitive. I can't have my foot half in one racing series and half in another. If I do the bouncer, it's got to be full 100%. If I do this, circle track thing, got to be 100%. I can't focus on anything else, because if I do one, I won't do both of them very well. I'll just do half in one, half in the other, and that's not fair to either sport. So, I just burn out. And he goes, I need to take a break, because that's, if I don't, he said, I'm not going to be a good driver at either sport. So he said, I'm going to take a break. He goes, I am building a trail rig. I'm still going to come out and play. Still going to go trail ride and have a good time. And he said, I might. And he kind of hinted I might bring my trail rig to a race, and I might race it. He goes, but it would just be more for fun, not necessarily for racing sake. And he said he said I'm still going to come to races. I said, you promise? He said, I promise. He said, I'm still going to come to a few races and still hang out with everybody and say hi and come hang out and goof off. He said, I'll still come to a few here and there. He said, I just won't be racing at them. And he said, it'll have to be weekends where I'm not racing my car.
Yeah.
So.
And there's a couple drivers that race Bounty Hills that I would love to see come out and race.
Yeah.
Not a season, just come out and race a couple of races.
We think back in time?
That's Josh Parrish.
Yeah.
He used to race.
Josh does very well.
Yes.
I like.
And Mark Elder.
Okay.
Those Elder Fab buggies work.
What about Wes Keene? Think he's coming back?
No.
You think he's done?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. I don't talk to him, but just rumors. You know how rumors go around. I don't think so.
I would love to see him back in a big buggy and just come out and rip it hard.
Yeah.
Just for one season. Say, listen, I'm going to do all 10 SRS races. I'm going to come out. I'm going to do all 10. I'm going to do the best I can at all 10. I think he would do very well.
Mm-hmm. I heard there's 3, 4, maybe 5 Canadian people, not Canadian, up there in Wisconsin coming down the race.
I've heard we have some Wisconsin's going to join us, so we're trying to get. Somebody said we're trying to get a race up in Wisconsin. I go to an off-road. I'm in Illinois, so there's a park called Badlands, and it's in Attica, Indiana. It's right across the Illinois-Indiana border. It's probably an hour and 45, hour and 50 minutes from my house, 2 hours roughly. I would love to get a race there at some point, just because it's fairly close to me, and it's kind of a northern race. It's kind of funny that I have to drive 5 hours south to go to a northern race. So I'd like to get Illinois races, Indiana races, maybe some Wisconsin races. That'd be kind of cool. I know Michigan has some cool races to run. Yeah. I know some of the guys in Alabama are not thrilled about driving, 14 hours to my place, but trust me, those 12 hour in Alabama and Arkansas, it's like a 12-hour drive, 14-hour drive down there. Some of the East Kentucky races are 8 to 10 hours.
Yep, I feel you. That 13-hour trip to Mid-America, I can't take it. I fly.
That's about an 8.5 hour for me. I always love whining about driving in Mid-America until Justin Willis is like, "Oh yeah, it's a 24-hour drive for you too," and I'm like, "Okay," which is not, I think it's like an 18-hour drive or something like that. But he always teases me. He's like, "Yeah," because that's he's coming from so far East Coast.
Yeah, I like to see Shepard back in a buggy.
Oh yeah, he'd be a good one to watch.
Yeah. Now, the guy that has his buggy, I heard he was racing. I cannot remember his name, but he was a wild one at Windrock in the Hatermaker buggy.
There's some early reject fab buggies that are out there. I'd like to see those drivers hop back. Timmy Swartzen, I know Timmy Swartzen sold his buggy, but I'd love to see him race again. There's 3 or 4 guys that I used to race with. The Bacons are coming back.
That's what I heard, but I don't know. That's what I heard.
Telling you, they're from what I understand, they're gonna try to make a statement this year, and I promise you, they have some new parts. They're gonna be. I've been begging them to get some parts, but they're not quite ready to start shipping stuff out yet. So I promise you're gonna definitely want to go look at their buggies because they got some bad boy stuff on the machines.
They're about 2 hours from me. I need to get a hold of the Bacons and see if I could just come out and hang out at the shop.
You need to go down and check out their new shop, and check out their machines because I promise you, they're pretty crazy.
Nice. Heck yeah,
I've seen some blurry spy photos that look pretty good. So I'm pretty excited. They're some of the nicest people you'll ever meet in your life.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
I'm pretty excited about them coming back.
They kind of anything about Scott
Goforth?
Yeah, he's a hit and miss.
He is. He's again. He runs a pretty big company. So I would love to pick on Scott. Be like, come on, Scott. But at the same time, like he has a big company, and his company works very hard. They got a lot of mouths to feed. So you can't exactly fault the guy for not. And he still comes to a few races here and there.
Yeah.
He can't commit to doing tons and tons of racing just because his shop, and he's got younger kids now, so he wants to spend time with them.
Well, you can't blame him though.
No. And that's my thing. I would much rather see a guy say, "Hey, I can't do as many races as I used to, and I'm going to spend time with my little kids." Because once those kids hit teenage years, they get their own license, they start driving, then college, and you never see them again. So you got to spend time with little kids when you can. That's why I love seeing our youth program. I really love seeing that. That's super awesome. Because it helps keep kids and mom and dad all together, and it shows them that you can have fun and be in the sport. So I really like seeing that. So
you got any of the down low on any of the schedule? How it's going to run this year? Is everything going to be the same?
So our schedule has come out.
Not the schedule. The schedule at the event, such as is van class still running on Friday? Is youth class still running on Saturday? Have you heard anything?
I would say it's not going to change, but don't quote me on that. I don't know for sure because I haven't talked to Clyde, but I would say that's not going to change.
Okay.
Me personally, I would like to see a VIN class move to Saturday, but the problem is we have so much racing to do already.
Not really.
We have a lot of I mean, there's days
you do have a lot of racing, but there's, and I love Clyde just like I love anybody else. They want to pack up and hurry up, get the heck out of town and get home. I can't blame them. They got work to do.
Yeah,
but you can put classes on Saturday and still have time.
You can, but again, we don't want to go till I've been at rock bouncing events where it's 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and we're still running cars through. I don't think that's good and or safe. I mean, yes, that's some people argue it's safe, but I like to see them run in the daytime. And there we've had events where it's 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We're just wrapping up the show, and it still has 2 or 3 hours of tear down, pack up, which again takes a lot of times there's very limited staff to do that, so it does kind of stink.
And also, if you run the van class on Saturday, there might be 50 people there.
And that's another probably a good / bad thing. It would be awesome. I would love to see 50 VIN class show up. The downside is we can't run 50 VIN through class plus bouncers on a Saturday. Plus, there's no way.
Here's my other thing is, why can't you run the youth class on Friday and the VIN class on Saturday? The word is because kids have school. Well, 99.9% of the kids that race are there on Fridays.
Yes.
You have Brantley Havens.
Yep.
And who else that races?
There's like 10 racers that are all, I think 6 or 8. Realistically, it's like 6 or 8. 6 or 8 racers that are all daughters or sons of racers that race other classes. So they're already going to be there, essentially, is what it boils down to. So, yes, we probably could move youth class to Friday. I like seeing it on Saturday because to me, it's a great kind of a breakup in the day to see the youth class run. Again, for guys who have to change out parts on their car, it's nice. If I got to work on my rock bouncer, whatever, it's kind of nice to have the youth class in between there.
But you would have the van class in between there.
You would potentially, but again, if it got to be 50 people,
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I would love to see 50 people in a VIN class. The problem is that would take all day on Friday. Like, yeah. It would take all day to run. Unless, and again, you could make it so the course was easier, so that way there wouldn't be as much breakages or rollovers. So then the guys are whipping through faster. But that's not really fun for the racer. It's not really fun for the fans. You know, I get a little bit harder VIN class because, yeah, you're going to have some guys break and roll over and not make it. But then you're also going to see some guys just going for the gusto. And there is nothing more exciting to me than watching a $300 clapped out Cherokee dude just send it. You know, like Dex has some Cherokees that I would love to say are like these $300, clapped out Cherokees. But his stuff, if you start looking at it really close, you'll see he has nice cages. He has like custom grid. I mean, he has some pretty nice.
He posted some of that stuff. It was like, y'all think it's garbage, but look at this.
It is. He has some incredibly nice craftsmanship in his Jeeps, and you don't realize it until you really start looking close. Like I said, he's done some TikToks with it, and again, you really see some of the craftsmanship there. So I like seeing some of the guys in the Cherokees get out and race, and and this is people come in my off-road shop when I talk to them about that. I tell them, like people, I've had people in conversation. We'll be at a dinner party, and I'll be talking to people, and they'll find out I do off-road stuff. And they'll, man, I've been thinking about buying a Jeep, and they start talking about. They look at JKs and they want to buy a lift and tires, and I was like, don't go buy a JK. Don't go buy a JK. Don't go buy a brand new side-by-side. Go buy a $300 piece of junk Cherokee, because you'll buy that $300 piece of junk Cherokee, or $500, whatever it is. Take it out, go to like a Badlands off-road park in Attica, Indiana, and beat the crap out of that thing. I mean, destroy it. And at the end of the day, you're going to be like, this was the most fun I've ever had in my entire life. Or you're going to be like, I hate this. This is so dumb. Sell this piece of junk. I don't ever want to come here again. One of two things. 99.9% of the people are going to be like, this is the most fun I've ever had. Like, this is so exciting.
Yes.
And then the cool part is, if you don't like it, you can sell your Cherokee and you'll still get $300 out of it.
Mm-hmm.
If you love it, now you can start putting a little lift, put a little tires on there, and then as you start to break stuff, upgrade. Don't go out and spend $50,000 on a Jeep and then spend another $30,000 on upgrades. Start with a $500 Cherokee.
Oh
and,
yeah.
Yeah, you'll have 10 or 12 grand into it by the time you're done. By the time you have put a 6-inch long arm kit and a good set of 35s and you
RCVs.
RCV. You can spend a lot of money. You can upgrade to 1 tons. You can do a lot of stuff to a Cherokee and have very minimal stuff. Again, there's like millions of YouTube channels dedicated to guys who are beefing Cherokees up and having so much fun with them. I mean, go look at the 4600 class. Half the guys in the 4600 class race Cherokees, and they have so much fun. And they go tackle King of Hammers, So I mean, I've seen a guy in a 4600 like bone stock Toyota win like 3 or 4 years ago. So to me, you can have a lot of fun in a very inexpensive vehicle. You don't have to go spend stupid money. So I would love to see our stock class grow. Again, last year was like the inaugural year for it. And I think being on Friday does hurt it a little bit. It would be nice to see it on Saturday. But the problem is we already have a ton of racing going on anyway. Adding another class, and it absolutely would probably grow if we moved it Saturday.
Here's what I asked. Try it one time.
But the thing with trying it one time is you would have to try, do it one time for one race. Each track, because each course is different. Each track is different, and again, it takes usually a while. We have to advertise it quite a while, and you have to do something consistently for a while before it grows usually. If we do say, hey, everybody, we're going to move it to a Saturday for one race, it probably wouldn't change our car count. But if we start advertising for the whole season, we were doing on Saturday, and we did that for several years, then our car count would probably start to grow. Again, that's kind of what Ultra 4 has done. Their 4600 class isn't super huge, but it's pretty decent size.
See, I disagree with you. Because my logic is you're going to get those hometown guys that want to race on Saturday. You say the car count's not going to grow if you just have it on one Saturday. I think it will.
I mean, if you do very first time you say, all right, we're going to move to Saturday this one time, your car count won't grow because no one knows about it. No one notices it. Now, if you start doing it year after year and you start,
No, it depends on when you put it out. If you
yeah,
put it out the day before, of course not. But if you put it out a couple weeks before and say, "Hey, this next race coming up in a couple weeks," then your car count will grow. You won't have one, two, or three VIN class people.
I would say, I mean, we had like Visions was advertised forever. Granted, it was through the week, but we advertised Visions one forever. And I think we even did it multiple days. And we had 5 guys show up for that.
You're talking mid America, way out in nowhere land. You ain't
But
talking about backwood rednecks in Tennessee.
I understand that, but they advertised and they had 4,600 cars already there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got 4,600 guys. They could have hopped over and raced with us. And I think we had one guy do it on the first day. And after that, they didn't. So, I mean, and again, like I said, you can debate it for a while. I would not be opposed to that. The only problem is trying to find the time to work the other race cars in.
Yeah.
That's you don't want to have, you want to make sure you have a good broadcast. You don't necessarily want to have a 13-hour day in broadcasting because most people aren't going to watch a 13-hour broadcast. I mean, for something like King Hammers, they probably will because it's a long time, but most people don't even watch King Hammers for 13 hours. They'll watch a 2-hour block here. And once their friends are done or their family's done or they find out their family's broken, they're going to turn it off. So
That's how I am.
yeah.
I watched the 4,600 class or 4,400 class, and
So yeah, I like it. It's fun, and like I said, when we've debated, I mean, that these are a lot of things we talk about on here. We've talked about in meetings before, and we all give our 2 cents on what we think would work or what we wouldn't work, and we all talk about a lot of things we could possibly try. And again, we've talked about everything from, I mean, going to radio stations, putting flyers up at local gas stations. I mean, we've talked a lot about trying to help grow the stock class in different ways and different things we could do. Again, just raising prize money is what everybody's first go-to answer is. We'll just give a bunch more money away. I mean, it does help.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt anything. It does help a little bit, but at the same time, can you use that money more effectively in some other way? And are you really, I mean, at that point, then you have somebody who just builds a stock class rig, some guy that builds a Cherokee and spends $30,000 or $50,000 building a Cherokee, follows the series and wins all the money. Is that really fair to the rest of the guys running the stock class?
Well, is that not the same thing as like Paul Wolf or Brandon Davis running stock things with $100,000 worth of parts on it?
I mean, yes and no, but most guys aren't going to enter a Cherokee. For $500, most guys aren't going to go spend $100,000 building a rig to build a Cherokee they're going to win for $500. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think helping keep that prize money a little bit lower helps keep some of the guys that would be, if you offer $10,000 a race,
then they're going to come out. Yeah.
$10,000 a race, that's $100,000. I'll go build a Cherokee, and I promise you I'll decimate all, like, I'll get on the horn. I'll be like, "Hey, I run a broadcast. I will make sure your name is on every I wear. Call up Ford, get Vaughn getting Junior and those guys. Ford, we'll have a $250,000 Bronco racing stock class.
There you go.
So you gotta be a little cautious about how you do things. And again, a lot of that stuff we talk about in meetings, and throw different ideas around, and we kind of talk. We look at what we look at what works for us. We also sometimes look at other race series. What has Circle Track done, or what has some of the other drag racing have done? What Ultra 4 does? What did Dirt Track do? Motocross. We'll look at other different types of race series and figure out what works for them and what doesn't. And then maybe if they find something that works really well for them, maybe we can adapt it for us. And that's everything from marketing to drivers meetings. So that works out really well. And so far we've done a pretty good job at it. So
yeah.
Again, I don't claim to be perfect. And Clyde one time years ago talked about we mess up, and it was a drivers meeting. He said there's times I mess up, I do things and say things. Sometimes I mess up. And he talked about NFL. He said, think about the National Football League. It's been going like 80 years now, 60 years, however long it's been in like an official business.
Yeah.
They still mess stuff up. They have 47 different cameras and 47 different angles. Control room that does nothing but watch cameras and zoom in and out on all these different cameras. And he said they still get calls wrong sometimes. He said, so, just if I ever make a call and I really mess something up, just bear with me. I'm trying to do the best I can. I'm only one guy. I'm not perfect,
Yeah.
So that's something I think is kind of neat too. We try to do better each year, not just Clyde, but the production crew and, racers, obviously, most racers try to do better each year, but we're not perfect.
Right.
And if we have a drivers meeting and somebody has a good idea, we will absolutely try to implement that. If it's something that we think, you know.
Oh yeah. Have do you know if Clyde or anybody with NRA has gotten a hold of Windrock or Eugene? Because the last couple years they've been saying they're clearing off the left side of the front side and building new hills. I know Eugene. I mean, he's a friend of mine, but I haven't contacted him to see if they are cutting those hills. Word was, last year that this year is going to be different. We're not going to race on the two same hills that we've been racing on the last 8 years. They're supposed to be cutting the other side of the mountain off. Have you heard anything about that?
I have not. I know the last 2 years we've raced in that little nook area, and the years before that we've raced over on the kind of the far
front side.
And I really like that far side of the hill. It is tough. It's rough. It's not real fun if you don't have a ton of horsepower, but I really like it. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's pretty gnarly. It can be kind of crazy, but I like it. But I like the stuff we raced last year too. I mean, I like both of them, and that's coming from a guy who barrel rolled down one of them last year. So, I mean, I kind of I think Clyde does a really good job of setting the hills up. I have my own opinion of what I think that's a little different than some other people, but that's, I like seeing hills that are a little more doable. For a long time, I felt like Clyde just went to races and been like, hey, what's the hardest thing here? Just picked it out, and when I was newerish to the sport, but then once I started watching a lot of racers at those same races where I didn't think anything was doable, we'd watch 2/3 of the field make it up with smoking times. And I'm like, yep. Man, and again, so I'm on one hand, I do want the courses that are a little more doable or completable, and I like how he's been adding in jumps and turns, and I like the uphill and I like the downhill. And the reason I really appreciate the uphill and the downhill and the jumps and all that, a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is silly. We're not dirt bikes. We're." I like seeing all that because if you have an uphill section, a downhill section, you have some jumps, some tabletops. It doesn't have to be a big jump with a big gap. It can be a tabletop. When you add all that stuff in, the corners. To me, that means the all-around better racer will evolve rather than a guy than the old hill killing days. You know what I'm saying?
To me,
if you see just a big tall hill and the fastest guy wins and everybody else is going to tear their stuff up, that to me is not real fun. I'm not saying I don't like a hard hill every now and again.
Right.
But I would much rather see a more of a course, an off-road course, rather than just quote unquote a hill killing, bounty hill type stuff where everybody's you're either gonna make it or tear up your rig. Well, I don't want to tear my stuff up. I kind of like my stuff, So
to me, there's of course there have been people going back and forth. It's become more coarse now than ever, and blah blah blah. To me, I think the driving ability it takes if it's just a straight up hill, it's a lot of it. No, I ain't gonna say a lot. Some of it is luck.
Yes.
And so it takes the driving ability away. It's just if you're lucky or not. Yep. And I don't want to see that.
Or if you have the most horsepower or the bigger tire or the best suspension. Where if you have corners and uphill, and again, downhill is kind of to me, downhill is the equalizer of all. Because a lot of guys don't like to go down fast downhill. I mean, I like to go a little bit fast downhill, but there's other guys that will absolutely hurl their rig downhill.
DC?
Probably Travis Skelton is probably the fastest downhill racer I've ever seen in my entire life. That dude will go faster downhill than people will go uphill. Everybody, in the shootout there, so we came down the hill, we went across a sand section, and then went up Chocolate Thunder. Well, lots of guys on this nice wide open sand are going to rip it. That's going to be a super high speed section. And then up Chocolate Thunder was a little violent, but a lot of guys are going to really push hard. You're going uphill and you're bouncing from side to side. So they're going to try to throttle it through that. But not everybody's going to go real fast downhill. Right. And all the first 4 drivers basically roll over, crash, or break coming downhill. And then we saw a few guys later on rolled over downhill. So that coming downhill section is a very quick equalizer of I don't care how much horsepower you have. I don't care how big your tires are. I don't care how much money you spent your buggy. Coming downhill takes a lot of cojones, and you really have to push your buggy hard. And some guys aren't willing to do that. I mean, I like to be quick, but I'm probably err on the side of being more conservative downhill, and that's why my times might not be as fast as somebody else.
Was that you? Was that you or Justin Wills that got stuck on a tree coming downhill at Windrock last year?
I rolled downhill and got stuck on a tree.
Maybe that's what I was thinking. Would you? No, I think it might have been Justin Wills.
Barrel rolled like 4 times and got stuck on a tree.
Yeah, I remember.
We had Brian Bebo Watt rolled back and got stuck in a tree. Like that was amazing. I'm like, dude, if I've ever seen a photo opportunity, that is it. That guy.
I got it too.
You would think that guy purposely planted the car there. Like, did you winch that up there? Like, you couldn't have picked a better spot. You know,
old tree bow.
Yeah, tree bow.
No tree bow.
So I like seeing a little more obstacle course rather than just one hill killing type deal, because it makes the all around racer kind of shine versus just closing your eyes and hoping you make it.
Yeah.
Now that being said, I always like to say that. That being said, I think every once in a while you need to have a really hard course because it separates the men from the boys.
Yeah. You heard anything about the new place that we're going to in
Pennsylvania?
West Virginia, or
yes, West Virginia, whatever. I've heard of it, but I've never been there. So I do think you need to have a really hard course every now and again, because it just kind of helps you kind of reset your image on what's hard. It helps you configure stuff. Like their second course at finals this year, we only had 2 or 3 drivers make it. Jay Storch was the first guy to make it, and he had an incredible display of.
That was freaking awesome.
It was pretty impressive. And again, we talked later on. I was like, man, I can't believe you. He basically came over and kind of clipped just the edge of that trash can, which I thought was incredible. And to me, I laughed because I'm like, that is the most Timmy thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And he's like, we didn't plan on it because I was teasing. I'm like, man, that's so crazy. That's something Timmy do. Just be over as far to be to be the best chance to make it, but yet at the same time have just enough tire on that side to where you're still following the rules. I said and he laughed. He goes, that was not my intention. He goes, the buggy just bounced that way, and I was already gassed. You can't stop now. You're 3/4 way up the hill. Hang on and pray you make it. And
I was headed to Disney, and I was listening to you all on the live feed, and then I was like, oh, I'm 18 miles away, and I heard you was like, you better hurry, they're about to end. Well, I hurried fast as I could. I got there, and I hiked down, and I got lost, and I finally got there, and Jay Storts went up. What is that? The rock.
Yep.
What is that called?
It's right next to
Viagra. He went up Viagra. Was it right next to Viagra?
Right. Viagra was our first course, and then right next to Viagra was our second course. And then the third course was the next day, which was kind of like the waterfall area, and then our fourth course was the big long long hill.
I think it was that first night. It was that Thursday.
Fourth course was Nasty Girl. So the first night we did 2 courses, and we thought we'd be going for 12 hours because we started at like 5 or 6 o'clock at night because of how the schedule shook out. Long story short, we ended up starting at 5 or 6 o'clock at night on whatever it was. And I thought, man, we're going to be here till midnight.
Hey, Jay hit that hill and he got to the top. Boy, I was fist bumping. I was like, yeah, that a boy.
It was incredible. Everybody cheered because he was, I think, the first guy to make it. We all went nuts,
Yeah. Was it him and Timmy the only ones that made it?
I know him and Timmy made it. I thought we had one more, but I can't remember. I thought one more, but I can't remember who it was.
If there was one more, it had to be Justin, because didn't Justin get?
I think Justin rolled, if I remember my memory serves correctly. I told Clive to make like a sheet, like if you ever watch ESPN, they always shoot out these cool facts while they're listed on their little headsets. I said we need to have like a statistician like in the booth with us, so they can feed us facts, because I got so much information, done this so many years, I forget who won which race and who raced where and who rolled over and who broke. And I said,
speaking of Jay, he just said, "What's up, fellas?"
What's up, Jay?
We're just talking about you.
Yeah. And so I was super happy. Again, it was kind of funny because I just thought when he did that, I thought that's like the most Timmy thing I've ever seen in my life. And he's like, "It wasn't a plan, I promise." And I was like, "Well, whatever it was awesome." And so that was really neat to see. Again, to me, that's kind of I've learned that probably more from Timmy than anybody. Timmy's probably one of the most creative, and I'll use that in big air quotes. Timmy's probably one of the most creative people I've seen with courses. He looks very closely at where flags are placed and where banners are at. And if you think about it, if you can go really far right or really far left and hit a banner, which will add 30 seconds, but that makes you make the hill and nobody else makes the hill, I'd much rather be the guy who made a hill with a 30-second penalty than all the guys who don't make the hill.
Yep.
That's a $3,500 day right there. Yeah. You better believe I'm going to tag that flag.
You know who else is starting to look at the lines like Timmy? And I talked to him up in Kentucky. What's that park up there? Hollerwood?
Hollerwood.
I talked to Cooper Bentley up there, and Cooper was like, you see that line right there? All other drivers are over here talking about another line. He said, you see that line? He said, I'm gonna hit that. And I'm like,
it's incredible when, again, like I said, I like to pick on Timmy because he did kind of the best. He's one of the guys I've seen, and I guess one of the first races I ever went to, I wasn't even racing yet. I was just a goober little fan. I was in the stands with my little Lunchable and my Mountain Dew and my snacky snacks. And I was just a goober fan. I mean, I still am a goober fan. I still love watching it, but I mean, I was just a goober fan watching Timmy. And that day, a bunch of people went on the course and they all went and did their line. Timmy picked a line that didn't even make sense to anybody. And everybody had like a time of like 35, 38 seconds, 36 seconds, 32 seconds. Everybody's like in that mid 30 range. And Timmy went and did the entire course in 15.9 seconds or something. But he picked a weird line that nobody else picked. And to me, I'm like, in what sport? Like if you watch NASCAR and everybody was making 1 minute laps and a guy goes out and does it half a minute, you'd be like, okay, the guy's cheating. Like, he has to be cheating, No sport. If you watch drag racing, everybody's running 10-second time, 10-second time, 10-second time, and a guy goes and runs in 5 seconds, you're like, okay, this guy's clearly cheating. But yet he's not. It's all about how you can read the course, Now, with the newer courses, Clyde does a lot more taping and a lot more flags. So with that, you have a lot more taping, a lot more flags. So you can be a little less creative. But there are some courses you can be very creative. And we've seen that, I think, last year, especially with, those top 5 guys we all mentioned. They would watch each other very closely and monitor who went. Did they go more right? Did they go more left? Mm-hmm. And that rock throw them to the right, that rock throw them to the left. Did it kind of kick the rear end over like we want it to? Or did it make them shoot straight? Now we have to kind of overcorrect and steer into it. We saw that a lot, at Hollerwood, specifically. We saw several guys DNF this year on second course. They had to go up and hit that rock, and it started getting a little rutted out, started getting a little wider, and that rock face was kind of weird and maneuverable. And we saw 3 guys go up and roll over. I think Justin Wills was the first one, and then Brandon Davis was right behind him, and he's like, hey, don't do what I did. Heckley or Brandon Davis, one of the two, did like the exact same thing right after him. And Justin was like, hey, don't do that. Like, kind of laughed. And then, we had somebody else, I don't remember who it was, did the same thing. And so it was kind of funny that you have these 2 very, very fast drivers are neck and neck, both go have DNFs and roll over right next to each other in the same spot. That's not that hard of a spot. But the problem is when you're pushing that hard in the buggy, at race pace, everything changes,
Brandon got lucky.
Oh, yeah.
Justin didn't get lucky.
No.
Justin come down, and you see my little fat butt on video rolling.
He tore up a bunch of stuff that day on the buggy. It's all little stuff, but he tore up a bunch of stuff that day. So
yeah,
I think that all around seeing the
sorry,
so all around seeing the easier courses are a little bit funner for me. But at the same time, I do like a hard course, Blue Holler. If everybody remembers Blue Holler. Mm-hmm. At finals, we only had, I think, 2 or 3 guys finish the second course, which was neat. And it was just a big rock face. At Hollerwood, we didn't have a single driver in bouncers finish it. And we only had 1 side-by-side driver finish it. And that was Wreckers or Checkers. I always call him the kamikaze driver. And he makes fun of me and tells me if I call him kamikaze driver one more time.
Hollerwood, nobody finished?
Blue Holler, like 3.
Oh, yeah. The waterfall?
The Blue Holler had the waterfall. I can't remember who it was now.
DC's the only one that climbed it.
Thank you. DC's the only one that climbed out of all the side by side. We didn't have any bouncers, only one dude, and it was DC. And I told him, I said, I told everybody what a big deal that was. And I'm like, oh, okay, one guy made it. I'm like, but you don't understand. And this is how I compare it. Remember when you're all kids and you like built a little ramp for your bicycles? Everybody went off the ramp, but it's the first guy that tries his ramp. Like, you don't know how fast to hit it. Are you going to die? You don't know. Yeah. You got your bicycle, you're hitting this ramp, and you're like, hey, man, I could die, but, I'm the first guy to try it. The first guy that tries it kind of has the most courage, in my opinion. Everybody else that hits it is just following with that. They're just following that guy. So, stated, well, I should be able to make it too. The first guy that just backs up and hits that ramp full tilt, that's the dude that has the most courage. So I have a lot of respect for DC because he's the guy who backed up and hit it. He hit that ramp and so he tightened. Luckily, we didn't know that until later on. He tightened the suspension out so it was solid as a brick before he got in the buggy. And then he pulled up. He kind of hit it once or twice, and he backed all the way up real far. And he started cinching on his belts really, really tight.
So
and
you knew something was going to happen.
Started doing that. We all got worried. We're like, oh man, he's gonna die. He's like, this is gonna be bad. And this guy stinking made it, and the crowd went bananas. They went nuts. It was crazy. I was freaking out. It was so cool. My brother had come to that race with me. He had drove down. Brought his truck and trailer, so I got to hang out in the passenger seat, just kind of goof off. Like we had so much fun that trip.
My New Year's for the New Year's bounty was my first time ever there at Blue Holler, and Charles Caris.
Yep.
But he showed me because I rode down to the bounty hill with him. He showed me. We stopped at the waterfall and got out, and I was like, "Hey, no way!" It was like, "Yeah." It was like, "Yeah."
Way.
It's like
the problem is there's such a big lip coming back at you that your tires hit it and they want to shoot you like backward. Danny Smith that day put on a freaking driver school.
Yeah, kept going around.
I have never seen a dude almost roll over and yet save his rig 49 times in a row until that day. I was impressed. That dude put on a heck of a driving school.
Yeah, he did.
Save a rig from rolling over that many times in a row. Like, I'm like, that dude has got some straight voodoo magic in that thing. Like, it was pretty impressive. So I like seeing a course every now and again that, once, twice a year, I like having a course that's really, really hard that nobody makes, or only a few guys make it. I know it's not great for television and it's not real great for the racers. Because a lot of times you don't make it, you end up tearing your stuff up. But, I do like seeing that because it challenges us as racers. It pushes the boundary a little farther and go, hey, you know what? You used to do this. Now I'm going to try this. Because, I look at stuff. So ever since I've tried driving rock bouncers, I look at stuff at my local hometown parks and I'm like, oh yeah, that's nothing. But yet I used to go to it and be like, oh, that's so crazy. Nobody can make that. Now I'm like, that's the first hill of the day. That's the easy one. Like,
yeah.
Well, and it's even funnier. We were talking at Hawk Pride, the return course coming down over to the far left of that big rock ledge, rock face. The return hill is what we used to have as a race hill, and that's the turn road coming down.
Wow.
So it's super funny to see, some of the stuff that used to be like super crazy, sketchy, wild is now like, oh, that's our return course. No,
yeah.
That's our return line stuff. A decade ago, that used to be the hard course and what everybody was striving to make, and now it's like the return little road down that's easy.
And that's crazy. That's the crazy part of it. How it's so far advanced now.
It is, and I would not say just and that's not just driver skill, but that's also the buggies themselves.
Yes.
In the last 3 to 5 years alone, have made leaps and bounds. In the last decade, yes, they've all improved a bunch. But in the last 3 to 5 years, buggies have made such a jump forward, seeing lighter chassis, more power. We've seen some sheet metal housings are working their way in the series now. And that stuff is very expensive. Sheet metal housings are very, very expensive, especially your all-wheel steer, RCV shafts, 40 spline with the F550 hubs. You're very expensive.
Yep.
So to see how the quality of the buggies have evolved so much in the last 3 to 5 years is just bananas, So I think you're going to see that a little bit more in the future too. And again, I'm excited to see how this year unfolds.
It's gonna be very interesting.
It will be. I think that's the best word for it. I think every race will be interesting. Every podium will be interesting. Every course. So you don't have to go to every race. Every course in the morning, course in the afternoon. Every course will be interesting because you have literally, it's like throwing dice in the air. You don't know how it's going to shake out until it's done.
Yep. All right, we've been going for about an hour and 50 minutes almost. So sorry about that, Matt. I do have a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
Off the wall, couple off the wall. What's your favorite park like to race at?
That's so hard. We were talking about that in the live feed. It's so hard because I love King Hammers. I love the rocks, the gnarly rocks of it. I love Wind Rock. It's a lot of fun. It's a big park. You can go out and play and have a lot of fun there. Mid-America, I like some of the stuff they have to offer there. I like.
We're not talking about parks, though. We're talking about the park of racing, not
Oh,
the
but the
actual park.
part of racing. Okay. The part of racing I like the
Well,
most.
the park, but the racing aspect of it, of that
Uh,
park, like not the amenities, not all that.
yeah.
What course layout and stuff? What park?
Again, same thing. Like I said, I like Windrock. I like just because it's got some cool features there. They have a lot. They have a huge park, so we can really pick any course you want. Dyersburg, I love. I used to kind of hate it, and now I kind of grew to like it. It's difficult sometimes for me because it's not always the forgivingest course, but I love it. It's fun. It's fun. I really like that park. It's a lot of fun to play on the hills, and I like those because they get. It sucks in the summertime because those hills, right as you come out of the top of Cable Hill, the fake Cable Hill, right as you come out of Cable Hill, there's like a dip right there where like talcum powder, like all the dust settles. So
Mm-hmm.
talcum powder. So I've seen everybody from front end to back, and I've seen everybody dip into that and have problems because it starts clogging their air filter. They start spinning tires. The faster you spin tires, the faster you can bury the buggy. I've seen all kinds of people have problems there. I mean, the last time the original Gold Rush ran there, he couldn't make up that hill, got about halfway up, locked up the transmission, smoked a motor.
Yeah.
So to watch, I mean, and again, just listening to an 1,800 horsepower buggy echo through the hills was just cool enough for me,
Oh
and
yeah.
get out there 3 or 4 times and hammer on it. That was a lot of fun. I kind of like the layout of some of the courses with the short course at Rush Springs in Missouri. They have the short course next to it, and I really love playing on the short course. The more I practice on that short course, the more fun it is. So I really like the short course there.
So you don't have just one.
Yeah, no. It's hard to pin. They all have. It's like saying, "What's your favorite food?" Well, I
Well,
like
hey,
all of it.
that's your next question. What's your favorite snacky snack?
Oh God, if I had to pick one for the rest of my life, it'd probably be a Snickers bar. But
Snickers.
that's like my go-to. Like if I'm hungry and I don't have time to eat, I'll grab a Snickers.
No Reese cups.
But I say that that's like if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick that one just because it's kind of go-to because it's like a substitute meal for me. A lot of times we're at parks and I'm on the go. I'll grab a Snickers bar. But I eat about every kind of snacky snack there is. Snickers bars. I mean, like I'm more of a candy bar guy, so I'm Twix, Kit Kats, Milky Ways, Baby Ruths. I got my snack bowl next to me. I eat gummy worms, Skittles. Turtles, granola bars, and we eat about every kind of snacky snack. The greatest part is now I've had a lot of fans bring them to me in the booth. They'll walk over like a bowl, like, hey, you want some of these? You want some snacky snacks? And they'll bring them to a big bowl of whatever. And me and Bree always joke we're gonna be like 300 pounds. Like
I'm gonna stop by. I'm gonna stop by and get a couple out of your bowl next time.
it's seriously, it's sitting right next to me. I took it. I didn't take the boulder hammers. I did have snacks there, but we did. It does. I take it to. I play trivia on Tuesday nights with some buddies. I take it to trivia with me and share, and it's a lot of fun. I always make the joke. Everybody's got to eat. Which is a line from the Gone in 60 Seconds. They introduce Fred, like, who's Gilligan over here, and he's like, that's Fred, and he orders pizza, and he's like, hey, everybody's got to eat, right? So I always kind of make that joke that you can make a lot of friends with some snacks, so we try to carry some snacks around. And again, if you're in the booth, our races are still pretty good. We're 6 to 8 hours for a race, depending on what the race day is.
Mm-hmm.
I broadcast booth before for 14, 16, 18 hours doing races. So it's really nice to have some snacks that are, some granola in there. That's a little bit of protein. I have some packages of like microwave popcorn in there. I got some ramen noodles packages in there, a little bit of everything. That way you can halfway eat a meal out of there if you want to. Again, we try to have some Mountain Dew or whatever.
All right. Jay Stewart says, like a Snickers bar and a Coke with Daniel Heckley.
Yes. I will absolutely come get a Snickers bar and drink a Coke with them.
Okay. I've been asking you questions.
About the meal. Speaking of snacks, this year the Heckleys and who else was Brandon Davis and the Heckleys all got together and did like meal prep, like planning for some of our races. And I'm not kidding you, they had some pretty incredible meals. So that's I hope they do that again this year. Like I used to sneak over there like, hey, what's for supper, guys? Like what crab and lobster and like shrimp. And I'm like, dude, what are you like? I'm used to eating like a cheeseburger, or if it's fancy cheeseburger, otherwise it's like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something.
Yeah, last year at Mid America, it might have been the year before. Um, I was just walking by, and Brandon Davis' wife, uh, what is her name?
Cheryl.
Cheryl. Yeah, my mind just went back.
Cheryl.
She was like, Cheryl was like, Bob, you want something to eat? I'm like, what do you got? She had a huge bowl of like chili.
Yep.
I'm like, dang. And then last night, or no, it was today. Matter of fact, I was talking to Jay Stewart's, and I was like, I'll be at the race this Saturday early. I was like, I'll meet up with you, early in the morning. I said, what time's breakfast? Just joking around. I put a little laughy, smiley face or whatever,
Yep.
and he said it'll be done about 8 or 9. I'm like, I was just joking, but okay.
He will be too. They eat very well. Again, Carol and Brandon, they do a great job. Bacons, when they used to come to the family, again with the if all three Bacons were racing, Big Tim, Little Tim, and Bubba. Some races they bring their wives, and and then you got Keith Toolman over there. So I mean, you got 20 some people to feed. So sometimes they have some pretty big meals, which was always neat to see. So I'd always sneak over there and share some snacks with them, or sometimes if it's close, sometimes we'll go out to eat, which is a lot of fun. I've had a really, really good times going out to eat, and then sometimes we'll go out and goof around afterwards, have some shenanigans, and it can be a lot of fun.
That's cool. That's cool. All right, I've been asking you some questions.
Okay.
And a lot of them you've been beating around the bush.
Okay.
You just go down the list of saying different things about different parks, different snacky snacks. So I want one name and one name only. We all know you love every single driver out there.
Yep.
Who are you most excited to watch this year? But don't name 17 names. I need one name.
That is a hard question. I'm excited to watch those top 3, top 5, and that will not change. Probably. Listen here. I will give you an answer. I promise. Top 3, top 5. I'm the top 5. The top 5 drivers. I'm super, super excited to watch. I've talked to Justin Wills probably the most this offseason, so I'm probably. I would say I'm really excited to watch him. Probably. The one guy, I'll say this: the one guy I think that will be one of the most exciting drivers to watch this season for everybody, it'll be Cooper Bentley. I think that dude is going to come out and just he's like a young gunslinger in the old Wild West. He hasn't been around long enough to respect the OGs, so he doesn't care. It's like an old school picture. You see some young snot-nosed kid, some guy that just went turn pro, step up in the booth, and you have some old school guy out there pitching. He doesn't respect that guy. He ain't scared of that guy. So you throw a fastball, he's going to put it up the park and not even feel bad for you.
Now,
so I think Cooper Bentley, he's going to be my driver to watch this year because he's a young gunslinger and he ain't scared. He's a very, very good driver. So he's going to be my driver to watch this year just because new and young in the sport. It'll be the first time in a rock bouncer. I know he's driven it a couple times since then, so I'm not saying it's like quote unquote first time, but first year in a rock bouncer with the Southern Rock Racing Series. And I think he's a very good driver. He's a very kind person.
That's what I was gonna say for the people that don't know, when you talk about Cooper about being that way, you're talking about Cooper being that way in the rig, not respecting the OGs.
Yes.
You're not talking about as a person. Some people don't know Cooper like we know Cooper.
No. Cooper
is the
most soft-spoken, kindest person you will ever meet in your entire life.
Yes.
Like, hi, how you doing today? Yes. Thank you, sir. I'm like, no, I'm not a sir.
I agree completely.
Yeah, so I have a lot of respect for Cooper. I think he's going to be an amazing driver this year. I'm really excited to watch him come out. Again, that top 5 though is going to be brutal. That's going to be brutal because I think every race is going to get shaken up, and I pray we have 3 or 4 guys that step in. And like DC, I pray he comes in and just shakes everything up. That would be so much fun for me.
DC Cooper. And Ethan Martin.
Another guy that's going to come in. He's going to battle hard.
It's going to be fun year. It's going to be a real fun year. I do appreciate you coming on. We've been on for 2 hours now. I'm not going to keep you any longer.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything you do for our sport. And I will see you at Windrock.
All right. Have a good one, buddy.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right. That was Matt Holt, commentator / racer for NRA. Man, 2 hours. Wow. And there's been a steady 10 people in here. I figured it'd be at least one person. That's it. So for those of you that hung out with me, that's freaking awesome. It gives me the encouragement to keep doing live videos like this. You know, sometimes I get down on myself. I'm like, if I do a video, oh, only 10 people watched it. I don't know if people like it or not. People tell me they like the pictures, my pictures I take, but I don't ever get any feedback on the live videos. So I never know if people want to watch or not. But I'm excited. I at least had 10 people in here. So that's real exciting for me. And 2 hours is freaking crazy for me. Jed Harper said, we are all ready to get back to racing. Amen, sir. Yes, we are all ready to get back. We are ready to go. But I will see majority of you all this Saturday. Safe travels. And I think we might do this again pretty soon. Appreciate y'all for hanging out. And we'll see y'all on the flip side.